Really, the situation from Professor Nehru et al. And very wise words from Dr. Raman. Just one thing that I'm sort of pondering over is both of you. Is it not? It's not on me? Sorry. I enjoyed both presentations. Thank you very much indeed. Just, I'm sitting here wondering, is there an element of how to actually overcome the barriers and fit in to the existing situation? Perhaps is there a need for us to explore whether the current arrangement, whether it is the work environment or the leadership situation, is that actually correct? Isn't there a need for us to review our social organization, the structure? My worry is it's actually the men who have to learn some of the positives that you identified in women, so that we have actually a balanced society and better leadership. The concern I will have is if women were to find ways of succeeding in a man's world, so to speak, we may not still be making progress.
I'll start with the last comment made. A man's world. It has to become a human world, not a man's world. Law itself can't change our attitudes. We had laws in India for many decades against dowry system. It still exists today. The only thing that changed is when women became more independent, more self-sufficient, and they said, I don't marry a man who asks for dowry. That is when it changed. The law could not change it. The law could not be implemented. You can take somebody to court, you can put somebody in prison. That doesn't change their attitudes. But when women change their attitudes, that changes the system. So then men sit up and take notice, and they start doing it. So it's, think of a human world, an equal society. Again, rules and regulations won't make it equal society. When, I'll let Nirmala speak, then I'll tell an anecdote afterwards. When I was applying for a trainee post in cardiology early in my career, I had the qualifications, I had excellent references, but I was not getting the job. So one day when I attended the interview, luckily the interview table was very narrow. I could see my CV in front of them upside down, and one of them very kindly marked a tick against my qualifications, my references, my experience, and put a red dot against woman, married, Indian. So I can't change Indian, I'm not prepared to change married, I can't change woman. So at the end of the interview, I knew again from their body language they're probably not going to give me this job. They asked me, do you have any questions? Usually about pay or leave or things like that. And I said, no, I just want to make a comment, which one question you didn't ask me. You may think that as a married woman, I didn't mention it yet, as a married woman, I may not be able to do justice to this busy job, but you have seen my references. That's because I worked hard, so you should not have any reservations on that count. So I got that job. So that is when you recognize what are the barriers, then you can raise a problem.
There's not much I can add, but I think you ask a very good question in terms of if women are struggling to succeed in a male-dominated arena, then we are really not there yet, and the battle is still, we have a long way to go. How do we overcome the barriers? Just listening to what Dr. Bala is rehearsing with us, I would put them at two levels. You're absolutely right in terms of cultural change, mindset, all these are very important. I would group them in institutional terms and individual terms. In institutional terms, I mean, we do have to make an effort. It's very hard, from my own personal experience. Boardrooms are male-dominated. I sit on audit committees, finance committees. These are all the committees which are male-dominated, and it's very difficult as a one-woman member of these committees to actually. I don't find it very difficult, but it can be very difficult to influence change. So what we have done in higher education is, one of the typical problems we have is when women apply for promotions or people apply for promotions, you always find more men than women actually putting themselves forward for promotions. And I've seen this year on year, and I have made it a point to make our human resources department go proactively and talk to women who are actually ready to speak to them, to make a self-assessment of their own position and invite them to actually apply. Because it's true that women do not feel very confident about, we always think, oh maybe not this year, maybe next year. Whereas a man will put in the application whether he's ready or not. He'll definitely put in. It's a confidence that a person comes with, and women don't have it. Women have to be mentored and they have to be nurtured. And it's very, very important, and that really has made a difference in higher education, where we have actually made sure that during the time of promotions, women are talked to and mentored and coached. And that's made a lot of difference in terms of women putting themselves forward. And the next hurdle, of course, is how do you promote a woman who has taken time out for childcare? You've lost so much time. And in higher education, remember, we have to be publishing all the time. It's one of the indicators. If you don't publish, it's publish or perish. And nobody takes into account the 7 years or 8 years or 9 years that a woman has lost in bringing up children. Although institutional policies are now reflecting that and accommodating that factor. That's just one example. But in the institutional side, there are so many facilities, so many structures which we are changing to encourage more women to advance, creating more opportunities. But on the personal, individual level, the barriers can be several, not least, as you mentioned, our own motivations, our own resources, the opportunities, and how we seize them. And I think it's very much up to women. It's really up to us as to how we are going to navigate those problems. I'm so glad my husband's not here today. But I have to say he's been very supportive. Supportive in the sense never stopped me from applying for a job which I wanted, or in terms of locating somewhere else or relocating. It's been difficult with young children, but he is a traditional male. He is somebody who will expect food to be ready and come back home, and those things have not changed. But I do believe the younger generation. I see my son who are married, and I see how different they are. So I'm very hopeful that things will change. We should be sure.
Thank you very much, Anita. I spent the last 12 years worrying about these issues, particularly in the context of my own discipline, science, engineering, and technology.
Sure.
My concern still is this: the paradigm has